We're going to find out today if you can grow peanuts nearly up to the 45th parallel in the United States, which, by the way, is halfway between the North Pole and the equator. We're just south of that. And also, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you some incredible research about cancer, peanuts, and mold. You don't want to miss that. Hey everybody, Chad Cruiser here with Health and Homestead. And I'm going to show you the process that I went through to plant these peanuts. And we're going to find out, I don't even know right now, are there any peanuts underground here? We're going to find out. We're going to see if it's worth growing peanuts this far north. I live in the north, and peanuts are historically a southern crop. But a man in northern Michigan had actually tried planting successive seasons of the Valencia peanut, and he found he was able to select some that would grow just fine in northern Michigan. Now, I wanted to give it a try, so we're going to try that. Now, if you live in the south and you have plenty of warm weather, something like a peanut is something that can give plenty of calories. They are high in fat, very, very high in fat, so people who struggle with heart disease, it might be a little much for them, but it's something to consider. During hard times, calories are important, and so we're gonna give this a try. Once again, the hardy Valencia peanut, the northern hardy Valencia peanut. So we'll give it a try. Now, the spacing for these is 6 inch, is to be 6 inches apart. Now, they don't say for sure how big the rows should be, so I'm actually going to try 18 inches. We'll see how that goes. They actually have the little peanuts there. This is one that has 2 in this particular shell, and there's more where that came from. And so we'll test them out, see how it goes. Now, these are to be sown 1 inch deep, and that's what we're going to try to do. 1 inch deep every 6 inches. So that's what we're working on. Here you can see them growing, the green plants. I think I watered them too much, so they started to get a little pale. Probably should have watered them a little less. And also probably would have been good to have more organic material in the soil. That would have been beneficial. I've been trying to make a ton of compost this year, and I'm trying to make a lot more before the end of the year and before next spring. We've just had some frost, and so at this point, we now are ready to pick them. So let's find out. Let's actually see, are there peanuts underground here? So let's find out. All right, here are some peanuts. They are here. I see on this one, maybe there's more underground, I don't know. But on this one, I see maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 peanuts here. And by the way, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them down in my basement, get the dirt off there, and I will put them in an area to dry. They're going to need to dry off. But let's see, let's look at some more here. All right, that one, some fell off. Maybe there's more in the ground there. That one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're getting some. So once again, there's certain things like sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, you can grow them up here, and there's actually a variety, one of the Japanese varieties that's said to grow well of sweet potatoes up here, or at least decently, and I'm going to try to find that out next year. But in general, sweet potatoes don't grow all that great this far north. I'm guessing, I don't really have a great recollection of how many peanuts you're supposed to get on a plant, but I can see other ones were growing on here and they didn't really take off. I would actually say it's not too bad. Some of these are doing pretty well. I'm actually surprised how well they're doing. So maybe it is a good idea to grow these up north. I guess it just depends, and maybe it'll depend on the summer. I'm going to take these down in the basement. I'm going to let them dry, and then I'll have more for next year or to eat either way. But this was just a small test plot to see. Now, check out this research. Research in the International Journal of Epidemiology reveals that tree nuts and peanuts lower the risk of mortality, meaning they lower your risk of death, whereas peanut butter does not have the same benefit to lowering mortality. What do you mean? Well, the reality is when plants are in their whole form, where they're not seriously processed like peanut butter is, it actually has a greater benefit to your health. And when it's seriously processed, sometimes it loses that benefit. I mean, it just makes sense. This is the way that God made it in its whole form. Now, it was found that they lowered the risk of death from respiratory illnesses by 29%. Now that's really, really significant. And so you're thinking, man, how much should I eat? Well, it turns out that a half of a handful a day is the optimal amount. When it comes to nuts, moderation is best. You may think, oh man, if a half handful is good, maybe 10 or 20 would be even better. But that's really not the case when it comes to nuts. Now, I know that peanuts are not properly nuts, but they're still in this research. But the reality is moderation when nuts is a wise thing to live by. And peanuts do contain, because they're a legume, they contain lectins, which are not healthy to consume in high amounts. But lectins are neutralized by cooking, so be sure to cook your peanuts. Here's the thing, what about cancer? What was I talking about? Cancer and peanuts. You may have read that seminal book by T. Colin Campbell called The China Study. And in that book, it talked about an amazing thing that research had been done. They had noticed that in the Philippines, now they had known for some time that aflatoxin was one of the greatest carcinogens known to man, greatest cancer-causing substances known to man. And what they had found is that Filipino children, they were looking at Filipino children, many of them were really suffering with near starvation, malnutrition, and so they thought, man, we need to get these kids more protein, because in the 60s, protein was the thing, that you need protein, you need tons of protein, as much as you can get. Protein is the essence of life. And so they thought, well, one of the ways they could get it is peanuts, because peanuts are packed with protein. Actually, they're super fat, but they're packed with protein. And so they thought, well, we need to get the kids in the Philippines, they're easy to grow there, and we need to get them peanuts. But the trouble is that the better peanuts often, they believed, would be shipped off to the richer people, and so the rich children would be consuming the healthier peanuts without the aflatoxin, because the mold, this toxin that can grow on peanuts when they get moldy, is aflatoxin. And so they thought, well, then probably the poor children will be eating the moldy peanuts, and they'll end up coming down with like liver cancer. And so this was their fear. And they looked into it, and just the opposite of what they guessed was true, that the wealthier children were getting this cancer, but the children who were poor were not. Well, this didn't make any sense. The wealthier kids, they were eating a lot of protein. They were eating more animal protein, which was, in the 60s was considered to be the best thing for humanity. And so when they began to look into this, T. Colin Campbell points out in the book that he did see a study out of India that revealed that they gave aflatoxin to rats. And they gave them two different diets. One was on a high animal protein diet, and one was a low animal protein diet. The high protein diet was 20% protein. The low protein diet was 5% protein. What they discovered is that 100% of the rats eating a high animal protein diet came down with this cancer. And of the rats that were only consuming 5% animal protein, 0% of them came down with the cancer. And at the time, this was like heresy. No way. Animal protein was the healthiest thing known to man. We knew that. That was the case. That has to be the case. Humans are made of protein. Well, interestingly, yes, we do use protein in our bodies, but they began to find that high amounts of animal protein in the diet can actually increase chances of cancer. Now, in that particular study with the rats, they could turn it on and off based upon how much animal protein, I believe it was casein specifically, in the diet of those rats. So, two things to think of here. Don't eat moldy peanuts. Have you ever done it? I have, and I think I've vomited from it. I mean, it's a terrible, number one, they taste terrible when they're moldy, and number two, it makes you sick. And so you don't want to be eating moldy peanuts, and secondarily, high animal protein diets can make people more prone to coming down with cancer, according to research. And so if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, and God bless and have a fantastic day.